right, everybody, welcome out to the Locker Room, guys. Craft Beer Show. It is Tuesday, September the 26th, 2023. Jersey Johnny coming at you with me. As always, when Mr. Samurai is not in town, is Mr. Matt Potenski. Say hello, Mr. Matt Potenski.
Good evening, everyone.
How the hell are you today?
Pretty good. I saw this guy I know named John for lunch and had a few beers with him already. So
that's cool. Is he a good guy? He's a good guy, right?
He's an okay guy.
He's all right.
Yeah.
I heard he's a prick, actually.
Yeah. He copies my style all the time, though. I don't know.
He usually does. He does. Right. Well, it is our sponsor for the show. So
true. That is true.
This is true. So product placement. Anyway, yeah. So it's weird, you coming on the show instead of Dave. Dave is on temporary assignment. He's out in San Francisco right now, enjoying the left coast, if you will. But he's normally eating something when we start the show. So.
Yeah, unfortunately, I already ate tonight.
Yeah, and so did I, so we're good.
But I think I am here for a really important reason, because I think this was a calculated thing by Dave, because today is National Lumberjack Day.
Today's National Lumberjack Day.
And I feel that I'm much more in the mold of a lumberjack than he is.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. Yeah, I can think of a few people that are much more mold of a lumberjack than Dave is. So.
But it is also apparently National Chimichanga Day. So maybe
Dave would have definitely been eating a chimichanga.
He's probably eating a chimichanga right now.
He absolutely would have been eating one to start the show had he been on tonight. So everybody is fortunate that he's not. So there you go. Anyway, so all right, let's just jump right to it. Let's get our guest on. Please welcome to the show, Mr. John Ross. Drum roll.
Ooh. What's up, guys?
How are you, sir?
How we doing, John?
Welcome to the show. We appreciate you coming on with us tonight. Got a lot to talk about. I see you're already drinking. I need a beer. John, what are you drinking? Tell us that first.
I'm drinking a beer from, I think it's mutual friends of all of ours. It's also the closest brewery to my house. If I get in the car, I'm in the car for less than a minute before I'm there, so that's dangerous.
I was going to say, just walk at that point. Yeah.
From Bird's Mouth Brewing, and this is their hoppy lager. So our buddy Andy and his team are pumping out some good lagers over in Port Monmouth. A lot of confusion being that Ross Brewing is in Port Monmouth. People always think one of us or the other. But I think
it's a P, not an F.
That's right.
Port, not Fort.
But always good stuff from them, and just figure a good sort of palate opener right now.
Yeah,
I mean, at least you had the good sense not to open in Washington, New Jersey, because there's 5 of them.
Yeah,
There's six. There's six Washington, New Jersey.
It could have been worse.
Six Washington, New Jerseys in New Jersey. Yeah.
Wow.
So
just to keep the confusion down,
Exactly. Yeah. So Matt, what are you drinking?
I'm actually paying homage to a little brewery that's on the water called Ross Brewing, and I'm going to have a Raritan Rye.
Raritan Rye. Look at that.
Yeah. Beer that I like.
Well, Matt, listen, you're part of that origin story for that particular beer, and that will never be forgotten. And we actually just poured it to great reception at GABF this past weekend out in Denver.
Very nice.
And what I found was, as I'm finding back here, it becomes a favorite of brewers and those in the industry. Listen, let's be honest, a red rye PA, maybe not the most commercially viable style, but we love the beer. We love how it came out, and thanks for your help on that one.
Yeah, no problem. And like I said, I like the idea of it. I mean, this is a style that I think probably is a little more traditional. Like there probably were a lot more red ryes, and it's more on that West Coast spectrum with kind of a little bit more bitterness, a little bit more malt backbone. But I mean, it's everything I love about a beer. It's got the malt backbone, it's got the hops, but it's still balanced. But it has impact on both sides.
I'm glad to hear you say that. We had a fellow stop by our booth. I think both of you guys know this fellow, Sam Colagione from Dogfish Head.
I'm familiar with his work.
Yeah, he's super kind guy, always smiling. My wife remarked, like, "Wow, man, that guy's so happy." I'm like, "Well, he's got 300 million reasons to be happy." Yeah. But he came by. He was just located near us, and he had written us at Ross a very kind note back in April. He said he heard through the grapevine that we were, finally getting open after all our years of contract brewing. And he said, now the journey begins. And, just a very, 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 very kind note, obviously the kind of note you don't forget. So when I saw him there, I wanted to thank him in person. He's like, well, what are you pouring? He goes, let me come over. So he came over, and we had 7 different beers there. But the 2 he said were his favorite were what you're drinking, Matt, the Raritan Red Rye.
Nice.
And our Brux Royale Belgian chocolate stout. So those 2 he singled out as being his favorites. So it gets right back to, like I said, it seems like brewers seem to like this beer, so we like that.
Yes, very nice, very nice.
And what are you drinking, John?
I'm paying homage to another brewery that's located on the water too. Same one, as a matter of fact, Ross Brewing. It's Jacktoberfest right here.
Okay.
Little 'tis the season, so to speak. The only thing though, John, I did not have a Ross glass to pour it in, so I poured it in one of these glasses.
No problem, but we'll set you right this weekend. We'll get you
actually, just not to be ironic, but look at the glass that I'm using.
There you go.
Oh wow. Okay.
All comes full circle.
My last trip to Dogfish Head down in Delaware.
There you go.
This is pretty tasty there, John. It's a nice. It's a Märzen with pumpkin spicing in it.
Correct, and even tying it back to what I was just saying, we poured that at GABF. That one was the crowd pleaser. That's where the populace are going to line up, and it's you try to make beers that you enjoy, and if people can enjoy them as well, that's really the bonus, and that's the crux of having a business rather than a hobby. But this was a beer that both guys and girls were liking. Mm-hmm. The goal with this one, and this is I think our 3rd fall doing it. It is always our fastest mover of all the beers we do, with one exception we'll talk about in a minute, all rise. But of the beers that we've done over and over, this beer is the fastest mover. And what was the concept there, right? A Märzen, like you said, an Oktoberfest lager, combined with a pumpkin beer, put it together. There's not too many of those on the market. Tons of pumpkin ales, tons of Oktoberfests, and Märzens. And this is one where we tried to mash it together, no pun intended. Very, 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 very little pumpkin. And I think a noticeable amount of pumpkin spice, but also the goal was not to beat you over the head with that either.
Right. Yeah, no, it's definitely not sweet. It's not cloying. It's not in your face like a lot of the pumpkin ales are. And some people like that, and that's fine. If that's your jam, go for it.
Yep.
But this is more of a Märzen with spicing than, a little bit more malty backboned, slightly bitter pumpkin.
Mm-hmm.
It's more on the Märzen side. So it's definitely it definitely did what you set out for it to do. So
the people who want their name spelled wrong at Starbucks are probably not your target audience, but everyone else, they'll probably love it.
Right. Exactly. Something interesting I noticed at the GABF Awards, there were 3. I mean, there's 95 categories, right? But there were 3 in particular that were right in a row. So they did Oktoberfest/Fest beer as a category. And 3 various Oktoberfest beers won. Then they did Märzen as its own category, so slightly different. Of course, a Fest beer usually going to be a lighter version of a Märzen in terms of ABV, in terms of malt, in terms of color, and so that 3 won. And then the category I was interested in, which was the Vienna Lager category, because we had entered our own Shrewsbury Lager into that category, and all 3 winners were also Oktoberfest beers. So it's somebody or a lot of people, reading the rules, reading the the category specifications, and saying, well, you know what? According to everything I'm reading here for this Vienna Lager, our Oktoberfest qualifies. We're going to submit it, and all 3 that won were Oktoberfest. So not that they're not necessarily Vienna lagers, but not what I was expecting.
Right.
Not the result I was hoping for either.
I mean, it's interesting because, when I used to do some beer judging and when we'd have a lot of the homebrew contests in the state, and and even on the professional side, I tell people, like, you may design a beer a certain way, but when you taste it, if it doesn't come out to be that style of beer, name it something else. Or put it where it's if you call something a Pilsner and it's basically completely opaque, they're going to crucify you for it. So,
Right.
call it a Keller beer.
Yep.
Like it's you got to be smart about things. And, I've had things where I've seen beer contests where, someone's like, yeah, I designed this beer to be this style, but it came out completely different. Now it's a Australian sparkling ale, and they put it in, and everyone's like, this is the exact definition of an Australian sparkling ale. And you're like, okay. And it did really well, but it would have done terribly. I've also had people put beers into categories that they thought it was, and you're like, this doesn't taste like that though. Like it tastes like something else, so put it in a different category.
You want to know what's funny?
Yeah.
One of the other brewers that was there, this particular brewery, he's worked for, I think, 10 breweries in his life. So he's a little bit older gentleman. He's got some experience. And
I know some younger gentlemen that work for 10 breweries already.
That's true. But he personally, has racked up over these different breweries 9 GABF medals across gold, silver, and bronze. But he confessed something to me. He said a couple of years back, he read the definition of Keller beer that you mentioned, Matt. And he said he looked through it and he just couldn't find anything in the category specifications that indicated it needed to be a lager like a Zwickel. Yeah. And so it just had to be unfiltered and such. And so do you know that he submitted his IPA into the category and won? And he said, as a result of that, they did rewrite the category specification.
That's pretty good. I like that.
If it tastes like what it's supposed to taste like.
Because I mean, normally a Keller beer is a Zwickel. It's not, it's not an IPA. It's not. Yeah,
it shouldn't be. No,
yeah. I mean, it's a little,
I mean, an unfiltered Pilsner can be it too. So
judging homebrew contests is a little more interesting because you have something you're like, all right, I'm going to taste like 5 porters, and you're one of them. You're like, holy shit, that is not a porter.
No,
what the hell is this beer? Like, and it's just it's funny, it swings both ways. So
I was at a smaller homebrew thing. I was probably like 12, something, not more than that, years ago. And somebody entered a stout in, and it was lighter than an amber.
Ooh.
And they entered it in the stout category. I'm like, why are you doing this? Why did you enter this in the stout category? And I tasted it. It was actually a decent beer. It just wasn't a stout. Like to your point, Matt, just rename it. Call it what it is.
That's what I was thinking. Matt said, listen, they made a brew with the intention of stout. They didn't get the right grain in there to get the SRM.
Yeah. Right.
Call it a light amber or something. Right?
Whatever. Yeah, exactly.
Extra session stout.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. John, let's before we get back into some of the other stuff about Ross, let's ask you the first question we ask everybody on the show. To the best of your recollection, what's the first craft beer you ever had?
I think it would have been mid to late 90s, so maybe 95, 96. And it probably would have been from the Canadian brewer of Belgian styles, Unibrew.
Okay.
And it would have been either Fin du Monde or Dans de Deux, one of these, or Maldite, these very thick Belgian style, dark, strong ales that come out of this brewery in Quebec. That was, I would say, probably the first, non-macro beer I would have had. Through college, it would have been exclusively macro. And it was after that, I was working in the city, downtown, young guy, and we hit some bodega and saw these, I'll tell you, it was the bottle art that would have pulled me in. I never saw
at that time, right? Yeah, exactly.
Right. And
I remember the Maudite has like that devil on it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's super cool looking. Yeah.
And Fin du Monde has these Vikings on a long ship, but sailing it through the sky into the sun. And I was just like, man, these are crazy. So, definitely threw up a lot that night. It was unlike anything I had ever drank before. But it got my curiosity, and we started hanging out in the West Village a lot. And, between Blind Tiger and Peculiar Pub, we started drinking beers from around the country then around the world. And, that's it. We were off and running on the journey.
Both two great bars, about 4 blocks from each other. 5 blocks from each other.
Yep,
Great,
down
great,
on
great
like
institutions.
West Bleecker, yeah.
On Bleecker, yeah. But spend many a night at both of them. But anyway,
And
that's
some of those
awesome.
nights you can even remember. Yeah.
A couple of them I do actually remember. A couple. Whatchamacallit. But that's awesome. You're definitely the first on the show to say that Unibrew was any of those beers was the first.
I definitely think Sierra Nevada is like the
Sierra Nevada Pale Ale is the number one so far.
I would think probably you're getting Sierra Nevada, you're getting even the Sam Adams Boston Lager, you might be getting
Sam Adams Boston Lager was my first in the 80s. Yeah.
Anchor Steam, those three are the first certainly that I was aware of.
Mm-hmm.
And we dove right in after that. But yeah, that was Unibrew were the gateway drug.
Yeah. That's awesome. Cool. Really quick, once in a while I ask this. Do you remember the first craft brewery you ever went to? Or just the first brewery for that matter, if it was the craft or not?
John, that's a good question. So I had toured the Budweiser plant in Newark. I had done that. My neighbor in Matawan was a taste tester there, and pretty good job. He said he went in and drank beer all day, and then they sent him in a car home every night.
There you go.
So we had gotten a tour there. I think maybe, I don't know, 15 or so years ago, I remember visiting River Horse's original location out in Lambertville.
Sure. Yeah.
I still think there were breweries before that. If it comes to me, I'll come back to it. But I would say if I'm looking at about 15 years ago or so, that would be it.
Gotcha. Yeah, my first was actually Canadian too.
Oh,
it was Molson actually.
Molson, yeah.
Molson,
Okay,
first
there you go.
I won't say the year because I'm clearly the oldest on the show right now, so we'll leave it at that.
Probably closer than you think, buddy. That's why I shaved, so we didn't look as similar.
Anyway, all right. Give us some of the backstory. Let's roll it back. What about 10 years or so when you first decided to do this, right?
For sure. Actually, honestly, it goes back a little further than that. I had always, throughout college and then throughout my career, my day job, when I started working in the city, as we just spoke about, right, I always kept one night a week bartending. Always good to have a little cash in your pocket.
Sure.
And I was bartending at this bar over in Staten Island, and commuting there from Matawan, New Jersey, over. And at that point, I was into craft, and the craft scene at the time would have been Ballast Point or Founders, even Green Flash. These were like the top of the game at that point.
Sure.
New Jersey probably had about 5 breweries at the time. New York, not more than 25. And I was pushing him to add more craft beer, the owner there. And he's just like, nah, man. He goes, we're Bud Miller Coors, 25-cent power hour. That's this bar, And he kind of said it as a joke. He's like, you want to do that, do your own place. So I did. I opened a bar in Matawan, New Jersey, the town I was living in 2008. The bar is still there. I am no longer associated with it. In fact, I opened it in 2008. I was out by 2010. But I am happy, A, that it's still going, and B, that all of the things that we had put in place in 2008 and 2009 are still there, including the beer club, the multi-taps, so many other features. That place is Maloney's Pub in Matawan. And I think now it might take the record for most taps in New Jersey, probably about 140. My former partner who continues
127 active taps.
Yeah. Active. Okay. Even so, I remember at the time when I was there, we were up to 72, and we were pushing against Firewaters in the Trop because they had 101. Mm-hmm. So after I left, it looks like they were able to eclipse that. And the concept there was simple. I wanted to do a low-key craft beer bar disguised as an Irish pub, so we can get the public to come in a setting they're familiar with. I wanted to do no Bud Miller Coors Corona. That I was a little bit outvoted, and so that's part of the reason I left. So I opened my own place in 2009, very next year. Back over the bridge in Staten Island, there's a big thoroughfare called Forest Avenue. It is the country's 3rd biggest St. Patrick's Day parade. Okay, the first, of course, is New York City, Fifth Avenue.
Mhm.
The second's Savannah, Georgia.
Mhm.
Who knew? And the third is Staten Island, New York.
Pearl
Chicago,
River's up there too. Pearl River's up there.
big Chicago,
Amazing though,
Boston.
considering you got
Chicago,
Boston, and
Boston, and
Chicago,
Pearl River. I
like,
think
you
is
know,
that.
Yeah.
yeah.
But Staten
I'm
Island.
saying
this
3 of the
neighborhood-
top 10 are in the state of New York. Is my point.
I'm sure. Maybe even more.
Yeah.
That's a very Irish working class cop and fireman type neighborhood. And so, I did the same sort of concept. I called it the Wild Goose Public House. Wild geese were an Irish fighting regiment from the 1500s through the 1800s. So I called it the Wild Goose Public House. And I sort of got into a Cold War taps race with my former place, Maloney's. We were 32. Over here, we went 48. They went to 64, 72. When he went over 72, I tapped out. No pun intended, but that's where we stopped.
Oh,
'cause
you
I didn't
totally
have-
meant the pun. Stop.
I didn't have the square footage to go any more than that. But in this, I was able to realize my vision. No Bud Miller, Coors, or Corona. Now, we did have Guinness. That's a mainstay. We have to have Guinness. But no Bud Miller, Coors, Corona. Drove the distributors mad. And to get the beer list that I wanted, the specific beers I wanted, it required the usage of 7 different distributors. So I did that one through about 2012.
Sounds about right.
The issue with New York is, the closing time's 4:00. An hour of cleaning and counting. I wasn't getting out of there until 5. I wasn't getting back home to Mattawan until 6.
Mhm.
My wife's like, "You got to make a choice here, man. You keep your bar or you keep your family." So we made the choice to sell that bar as well, and very happy that I chose to keep my family. And but I immediately got
Probably a good choice.
next project. And John, you were right at 10 years because it was 2013. Just a
Mhm.
year later, I just sold the bar, sitting around figuring out what can I do next. And so now what's going on? I've been home brewing at that point for 10 years. I've owned and operated 2 craft beer pubs. My day job, I'm working in a factory in Piscataway, New Jersey,
Mhm.
watching bottles get filled all day with shampoo and perfume and makeup. And I'm saying, if I combine the manufacturing, the craft beer retailing, and the home brewing, I'm getting to be middle-aged. How have I not opened a brewery yet? Right. So, so that was it. I wrote the business plan in 2013 for Ross Brewing. We circulated it. We got our first investors on board in 2015, signed a lease in 2017 in Red Bank. I live now in Little Silver. Red Bank is the next town over. Nice downtown, lots of bars, restaurants. They're grandfathered in for the liquor licensing. So there's like 35 licensed locations just in Red Bank.
Mhm.
Whereas their population dictates they should probably have like 2. But
Right.
But we thought that would be a great spot. We found this old firehouse, 150-year-old antique firehouse. It kind of looked like a brewery, all brick. As we were going through the design stage, we had some concerns. There was no parking at the building itself. We relied on the municipal parking.
As is most of Red Bank, but that's besides.
Exactly. No room for any outdoor drinking or dining for ordering in. And the more and more we looked at the square footage, dividing the front and from the back, the tasting room from the production space, both sides said we don't have enough room. Now, can it be done? Of course. There's tons of small breweries that get it done. I look at my friends just up the road from me at Belford Brewing. They've been doing a great job for 10 years, but we couldn't make it work in Red Bank. We were holding out hope that we could. The landlord was supposed to get the building ready, give us, as they say, a clean vanilla box, something we can go in and just start building out. They couldn't get out of their own way. COVID finally was the nail in that coffin. There was just the landlord couldn't get the building ready. So we exercised the option to get out of our lease. And we found a property that was much more on brand for us anyway.
Mhm.
Our brand, as I say, it's here on the hat. It's on the cans that you guys have. Our brand is all about, being out in the water. There's rivers, there's sailboats, there's all kinds of things like that. And, the team loves to sail, surf, and get out on the water. And we actually were able to find a place you guys alluded to is on the water. We're literally on a river. We have a dock. We have a building built out over the water, and beyond that, we're about 50 yards down from the bay, from Sandy Hook Bay, which is Lower Raritan Bay. And so we've got the bay on one side, the river on the other. And the other opportunity that we had with that property was with the help of a bank, we were able to buy the property. So now we don't have to deal with landlords and blame them. Now we have to take all the blame on ourselves.
Sure.
But we were able to close on it in August of 2020. Construction was due to take 6 months. Due to COVID and the attached supply chain crisis, that 6 months took almost 2 years between contractors getting sick and moving on, between a shortage of parts that we were trying to get and materials as well. Took almost 2 years. We did finish it by mid-2022, hoping for fall 2022 open, but it was the licensing and inspections from the state that took a long time. I tell everybody, I've told both of you guys this before. I tell everybody opening a brewery, try to get ahead of as much of that as you can. There are some things that just can't wait. They have to wait until your building's ready for them to come in. But if you can get everything else done before then, try. So it took them almost a year. We got greenlit, April 14th of this year. And as you both might recall, we opened April 15th, the very next day. So we've been open since then. So it's a different world than what I had done and what you guys are doing, contract brewing, moving around, trying to find space in tanks, all that kind of stuff.
I was saying, I was there for the very first brew day.
Yes, you were, my friend.
Yeah.
Thank you again. But, when you're contract brewing, contract distributing, contract cold storing, not a lot of margin points left to make a living in this business.
Zero.
So, yeah, it's 0 to negative, I would say.
0 to negative, yeah. If you break even, you're doing good.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, when the plan is to open a physical space, in some ways, you're elaborately doing advertising is what you're doing, but you're 100%. Doing it with liquid.
It's a multi-year marketing exercise because our industry, right? I mean, like, there's not that many TV ads, radio ads, newspaper ads. The advertising is the can space on the shelf in the stores. So, or that tap handle, in the bars and restaurants. So that's what this is, right? It's a marketing expense. But now that we're finally open, and we are, frankly, you mentioned we are New Jersey's only waterfront brewery. We've got 2 beer gardens on the water. What we haven't had up until now is a large amount of indoor space. But looking ahead to this weekend with Rosstoberfest, we're going to be opening some of the indoor spaces that have not previously been. So we have that second building on the property, and it's before we get too excited, it's not fully operational. Like the Death Star, the bar isn't in there, the cold box isn't in there. But we did do is clean it up, clean it out, get it ready, put some lights, so it'll be available for seating, for indoor seating, and it could probably seat about 75 in there.
Nice.
So compared to our current indoor capacity of 8. It's a
little bit more.
Yeah.
That would be more, wouldn't it?
Just a little more. Yeah. I'm jumping on my second beer, Matt.
I'm ready.
Yeah. John, you got a second beer?
I am, but spoiler alert, it's one that one of the two of you have already had. So it is Jacktoberfest.
There you go.
Next time we'll coordinate a little bit better, but look, like you said, it's the season, and I really like this beer, so why not?
Oh yeah, it's awesome. It's very good.
I by the way, I do want to give a little shout out. I don't know if he's watching or if he will watch, but there's a friend of the brewery. His name's Tommy Lombardozzi. He hosts an excellent podcast, by the way, as well, but not on the topic of beer. He hosts one. His co-host is one of the fellows in our tasting room. He's a beer tender at Ross named Mike DeVito. So Tommy and Mike host a podcast called Jacked Kirby. It's a Jack Kirby tribute podcast. Jack Kirby is the father of comic books. He co-created Captain America all the way back in 1941. into the 60s. The Fantastic Four, the Avengers, the X-Men, all that stuff. So anyway, they host a podcast. My point is, though, Tommy's a talented artist, and so we commissioned him to make this little guy Jack.
Nice.
Which is, of course, a jack-o'-lantern wearing lederhosen, symbolizing our our mashup styles. And look what we got just in time for Rosstoberfest. We got
Look at that stickers.
Stickers of Jack, so we're gonna be giving those out this weekend.
Nice. Matt, what are you drinking?
So because it's gotten so cold and crappy so quickly compared to with this storm coming through, I went right to big barrel aged beers. I'm sorry.
But the next two beers you're having are pretty high.
This is Revolution. Cuvée de Grace. So it's actually a blend of barrel aged barley wine and stout.
Oh wow! You said Revolution in Chicago?
Yeah.
That's I mean, literally, I was hanging out at their booth all weekend. That's crazy. I didn't have that beer, but that sounds awesome.
Was Doug out there?
So apparently, my whole drinking plan was to just drink beers from all the people that were around you.
There you go.
I don't know how you figured that out. We did not coordinate that.
That's uncoordinated, right? Mm-hmm. Was Doug out there with Revolution?
No, did not see Doug. It was a young girl named Alexa and an older gentleman named Jeff. I think they said they work in the tasting room. Gotcha. And so they flew out to be the public face, at the festival.
Gotcha. Doug is one of the senior marketing management. He does he's got the Instagram profile, Beer Aficionado, and he does all the videos like daily. He's making these funny videos about the beer industry. It's pretty good.
Okay,
he's one of the marketing directors for Revolution. Yeah, so
nice.
But yeah. Anyway, so yeah,
what's your beer, John?
My beer is I had to go down from Matt's because it was in a different order. I'm a Ram. It's from Memphis, Crosstown Brewing. It's a 6.8%. It's a Maibach, which we all know is similar to a Märzen. So I figured I had this. Have one more of these. Let me drink this. It's a very tasty Maibach. I enjoy it very much.
Beautiful. That's my number one favorite style.
Maibach.
If we're getting back to, the questions that you asked at the outset, was my first beer, was the first brewery. Why did I get into home brewing? I just fell in love with these Bocks and Doppelbocks from Europe. My very first homebrew recipe that we brewed that was successfully beer. Prior to that, I don't know what you could call them, but was a Maibach. Nice. And that's the recipe that led to our commercial beer known as Bockinator, which is a Doppelbock. The only thing different on the commercial version, we actually put a little bit of chocolate in it as well, so it's a chocolate Doppelbock. I know lager purists won't love that idea, but I think it works well. It certainly helps make it a little bit more commercial.
Of course.
But yeah, I mean, all these great bocks, that they Europe. That's what really got me into it, man, for sure.
I mean, my one of my favorites, my next beer, my third beer I'm having is actually I can't say my favorite style. I have to go by different countries, right? I have my favorite Belgian style. I have my favorite German style. I have my favorite English style, so forth and so on. So the next beer I'm having is actually my favorite English style of beer. So
okay, all right, very very cool.
We'll talk about it when we get to it. So there you go. But I love a great Maibach. I love a good Maibach. I love a solid Maibach. I love any Maibach. That's good.
All right, the bar's not that high. Okay.
The bar's not that high. If it's drinkable, I'm loving it. That's good. Yeah. The better it is, the more I'm liking it. But
of course.
Well, good. All right. So let's talk about Rosstoberfest. Let's talk about this weekend coming up. You take it. I can preface it for you, but Rosstoberfest stickers. There we go.
So Rosstoberfest. It is this weekend coming. It is September 29th, 30th, and October 1st. Mm-hmm. It's sort of my vision for what hopefully the craft beer industry can become here in New Jersey if we get a little bit of a relaxation.
Yeah, emphasis on the word can become.
Exactly. Right now we're in this temporary holding pattern where, okay, you can do some things. We're not going to enforce it. I'm not going to get into the whole thing. I've been going to Trenton for the last year and a half, campaigning, lobbying, along with the Brewers Guild and our friends in the Brewers Association, trying to get these laws changed and repealed. And we finally, made it happen. We passed a bill that both Republicans and Democrats, both the Senate and the Assembly, all passed unanimously. It's crazy. You can't get them to agree on anything these days.
I think this has got to be one of the first times in history that everybody unanimously said, yes, let's do this.
And then, of course, the governor vetoes.
Yeah, well, we need to be pawns.
So, that's a whole other podcast we can spend an hour talking about.
Al Gattulo was on last week's podcast.
Oh, there you go.
We talked about it just a little bit last week.
Just a little bit. That's so funny you mentioned about I think 3-4 weeks ago, I was on Al's for a session on Rosstoberfest, and on the break, he's like, hey, can you stay for a second session? I want to talk New Jersey beer rolls. I said, let's do it, brother. Roll up the sleeves. Yeah. In any event, because, theoretically, they're not enforcing it right now under this temporary stay, we thought we'd put Rosstoberfest together. And so what's the concept, right? In Oktoberfest, for sure. So all 3 days, there'll be German food. We're not limited just to German food, by the way. It is German food, but we've also got some other food trucks, some different vendors, a pop-up pizza guy, a hibachi truck, cinnamon buns, of course, pretzels. We need those Bavarian pretzels. So all kinds of food, music. Now, we do have a German Oompa band on Saturday. I'm very, very much looking forward to it. They're called the Esteemed Trio. I've seen them before. They're amazing. But in addition to that, we've got like big musical acts. Friday night, there's a duo. Half of them are from New Jersey and the other half's from Virginia. And they're called the Disco Fries. And they're huge in electronic music, DJ, house. I wouldn't say techno, but so they're coming for a live set. He said their previous set they played in Tokyo to a stadium of 80,000 people.
Really?
So they're going to play to 80 people at Ross Brewing. Hopefully, they understand what they're getting into here. But they like the idea that it's like on the water and this whole thing. So, we got them. That was a coup. Saturday, number of great acts. There's 3 acts every day. My favorite, though, he's a solo guy. He's been playing here on the shore for 50 years. It's Pat Guadagno. I don't know if you guys have ever seen him out.
Okay, yeah.
Sure. Yeah, he plays barefoot in the Bermuda shorts. He's jammed with everybody from Springsteen to Southside Johnny, and just everybody. And so he's awesome. But we've got some more good acts there as well. And then Sunday, more good acts, but our closer is Brian Kirk and the Jerks. And he's just so good, his team, and they can do anything. They can do Springsteen, they can do anything. And so anyway, that's the music. So we've got music all 3 days. We've got food all 3 days, contests all 3 days. But each day also features 1 or 2 unique things. So Friday, for example, we're having our friend Kevin Smith, the movie director, come. We've done a number of beers collaboration with him. We do the Quick Stop Stout, the Secret Stash Lager, the Smog Castle IPA. So kind of highlighting all of his iconic Monmouth County locations. Sure. And so he's coming in. And so anyone that buys a 4-pack, he's going to sign the cans, take some pictures, that whole thing. It's also, and this is what I'm excited about, is our homebrew pavilion. So what is the homebrew pavilion? Well, over the course of the weekend, we're going to have a homebrew contest. So the homebrewers are going to come on Friday. We're going to gather those beers. I'm going to be judging them. Either of you guys are there on Saturday. Hopefully both are. You're going to get, strong-armed into judging with me. Matt, I already know from your earlier thing that you've got plenty.
We'll both be there. So
perfect. So, that's we'll do some judging off-site, come back and I'll present the winners on Sunday. But for Friday, what I wanted is an opportunity for all the homebrewers to get together, right? Yes. We all started homebrewing. So let's get an opportunity for the homebrewers to get together. A couple of the pro brewers are going to be there Friday as well. A couple can't make it Saturday, so they're going to come Friday night instead. And so, it'll just be a place to just talk beer, life, the universe, and everything. Sure. And so just fun stuff. And, we all remember where we started, and the winner of the contest, in addition to a cash prize, as has become the tradition here in the state, will offer to brew their beer if they wish commercially. and I'm excited. We've got a couple of dozen entries, and I'm looking forward to tasting some beers. And who knows what style they'll be classified, Matt? I don't know, but we'll take a look at it. That's the Friday. Saturday, of course, is the centerpiece.
Mhm.
Saturday is our own little mini beer festival. We were able to collaborate with 12 amazing breweries, most of which here in the state, a few from out of state, Coastal Brewworks being one of them. And we're just excited what we put together. If you'll excuse me, I'm going to have to read this portion because it's quite an exciting lineup.
Exactly.
Okay, so here's what we've got. With our friends up the road, they're pretty close to us. Carton Brewing,
Mhm.
we did a Kolsch, our Collab Kolsch with a K, Collab Kolsch at 4.9%.
Mhm.
With our friends up north, Twin Elephant Brewing, we did a dark mild called Fast Shadow. They name a lot of their beers after the Wu-Tang Clan songs and
Sure.
lyrics. And I actually went to high school with a number of the Wu-Tang Clan over in Staten Island.
That's great.
So we thought that's something we lean into. We have that in common. So that's Fast Shadow.
I'll stop you right there for 1 second, Matt. How much of that beer do you think I will be drinking on Saturday?
Quite a bit.
Okay.
You like dark mild?
Oh, I love dark miles.
Okay. Well, this is this. Hey, listen, at 3.9%, it's our lightest.
You
option.
could drink a lot of them, right?
There you go. And hence the mild. Fifth Hammer, they're a brewery over in Brooklyn who put out some amazing
Queens.
stuff. My friend, I guess LIC, yes, Queens.
Yeah.
So Chris,
Right on the board. It's right on the border. Yeah.
Yeah. So we did something very interesting. Not a style. I'm calling it a Corntoberfest lager.
I saw that. That's awesome. I think that.
We're calling it corn maize, but of course the maize we put a little I in it, so corn maize.
Right. Yeah.
And we had flaked corn. We actually grilled some Jersey fresh corn on the grill, threw it into the mash, and a lot of cool stuff going on with that one.
Like that.
Our friends here in Monmouth County, Source, they were able to come over. Sam from us and Jeremy from Source, of course, they both worked together at Carton back in the day.
Sure.
So you've heard of Farm to Table. Well, in this case, it's Farm to Dock. Farm to Dock Belgian Strong Ale at 9%. Hackensack Brewing. So in this case, we were ready to do the next beer in our River series. We've had 8 released so far. Matt was drinking one with the Raritan. So the 9th beer in our River series was meant to be the Hackensack River. And as I explained to the team, well, we can't do it without
Hackensack.
the permission of Hackensack, and let's invite them to do it with us. So I knew I wanted to do a Hackensack Hefeweizen, seasonally appropriate as well. So we did it, and our little twist on it is we put a little bit of lemon and a little bit of blood orange. So that one will be at 5.2. Icarus Brewing. Icarus puts out a beer called Local Summer. We put out a beer called Local Summer. Hey, it's New Jersey. We all can get along. And actually, before both of us, Dark City had put out a beer called Local Summer.
They did.
So what we did is a little tongue-in-cheek. We did a beer called Local Fall, and it's a beer de garde. We used a nice French yeast strain and some Barbe Rouge as well, a French hop.
Nice.
So that's a nice beer de garde.
Have a nice berry note to it.
Yeah.
At 7%. My friends at Flagship Brewing over in Staten Island,
Sure.
we did something called Midnight Orchard. It's a porter with some cranberry and some black cherry. So a little bit of a fall fruit in that porter. And that one's coming in at 6.1. Twin Lights are the people who we did our very first collab with 3 years ago.
Sure.
With Twin Lights, we did Give Me Some More of That Stout. And Give Me Some More of That Stout, of course, is brewed.
S''MORE.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
Thank you, John. It's got graham crackers, marshmallows, and chocolate. That one's coming in at 11%. 3 Threes down in Hamilton. They're the blueberry capital of the world. So
Right.
we figured, let's lean into the blueberry. And then they immediately rejected that idea because they said they have to do so many blueberry things. So we went with a traditional German fall style of a Roggen beer. And so this is Roggenslagen. So Matt, if you like the rye of Raritan, this is another rye, but now it's on the lager side.
I've made a Rogan Bach before.
Oh wow!
So it's basically like a Weizenbach, but I just substituted a lot of the rye. It's one of my favorite beers that I made at home.
That sounds very exciting. I think I would love that beer.
Yeah. I love broken beer, so excited for that. And I know Mike was in the building, so
yeah, Mike was. Yep.
Yep.
Mike was in the building. I think Saturday he's sending his brother John because they got 4 festivals that day.
Mm-hmm.
We have a comment here really quick from Al Gattulo says, "You kids do a really nice show." Good evening, fellas. What's up, Al?
I wonder if Al realizes he was just checked a few minutes ago as well. What's up, buddy? Ashton Brewing, they're up in Middlesex. So we did a beer with them. Previously mentioned style on this program, a Keller beer, another German style. And this was called Brothers Brew. We've got Sam. They've got Max, 2 brothers, Sam and Max. We got together to do Brothers Brew. My friend Brian Strumke from Stillwater, another guy who was contract. I don't think we're allowed to say Gypsy Brewing anymore, but he was doing that. Yeah,
you can't. Right, yeah.
But he opened out and
why is that? Because your beer's not made with real gypsies, or
so we did one with him called Fanboying, but it's spelled Phan, and it's a double IPA utilizing Phantasm.
Nice.
And then we do some Galaxy Cascade and Vic Secret as well. That's at 8.4%. And there was one more beer that I wonder what beer that is. With my friends right here. Okay, at Coastal, we had put out a beer called Twilight Sky. You had put out a beer called Nautical Twilight. And over a few beers at the brewery, we said, let's mash it up and do Nautical Twilight Sky. Matt, why don't you tell everybody about that beer?
So I know you guys did a collab with Cypress, and you guys had basically a dark German wheat beer.
Correct.
And, a Dunkelweizen, if you want to call it that. And then ours is a coffee porter. So I said, let's bump up the ABV a little bit, make it a real, like almost like an Aventinus, like Dunkelweizen, like almost like Dunk, and then we'll put a little bit of the coffee that we put in. And, someone's like, oh, that German yeast with all the banana and coffee sounds kind of weird. But the coffee that we used it's a specific blend. It's a Brazilian, Guatemalan blend where it's very chocolate note forward.
Love it.
And
chocolate and bananas go
chocolate
great.
And banana.
Exactly.
So, it works.
Listen, I'm excited. I had it uncarbonated thus far from the first runnings, and already tasty. So excited to see the finished version.
I'm not gonna lie, Sam and I may have put it on tap real quick. And
no, you didn't. Oh my God!
I had a taste of it.
Yeah, he pissed me off too, John. Don't worry about it.
All right. So listen, we'll have to wait till Saturday, John.
Exactly.
But listen, the body of it is great. The color came out like absolutely perfect. Really, really happy with it. So yeah, I'm excited.
So with these 12 beers, I hope you guys can see my level of excitement is just. This is a dream project for me.
Right.
Working with great brewers such as yourselves, friends of ours throughout the state and even out in other states, and then releasing them all on one day. Like I've never done anything like this before. So I think we're on the topic because John, you had asked about Rosstoberfest. So we're running it like a little beer festival, little admission fee. You get 10 drink tickets. Each ticket's good for a sample size. We give everyone a glass as well, a little sample glass, just like a beer fest. But you can combine 3 tickets and get a full-size pour if you really like something. And then we're selling more tickets day of as well. So it's important to note, by the way, for Rosstoberfest, for all 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, while there are tickets available, and it gets you into the back and the Oktoberfest tent and the bands and the Kevin Smith and the breweries and all this, you can still come to Ross Brewing, and just be as normal, be in our front tasting room and the little front beer garden, but you will be limited to that area. The rest is going to be dedicated to the festival, and that would require a ticket purchase. The tickets are available online, rossbrewing.com, but you could also buy day of. You save a little money if you do it earlier online, but if you're one of the people that wants to wait and see what the weather's like, you could certainly buy it day of. That said, we've got a huge Oktoberfest tent being set up, 150 people. And as we alluded to, we're going to have the back building ready to house people as well. So, whatever the weather, this is rain or shine.
I think right now the weather's looking pretty nice.
It looks pretty nice. Yeah.
And that's it, man. Imagine if we had a
in the
last weekend.
70s.
Woo.
Low 70s, no rain. I think it's going to be a
That's the forecast we're seeing. We're seeing that basically from Saturday 11 a.m. on is going to be great. Friday might be a little drizzly, but that's all right. So yeah, and then we've invited each of the breweries, to come down and set up a tent and give people the real Brewfest experience.
Sure.
Sunday, that feature event. Remember, each day has like sort of one feature event. Sunday, it's actually our beer Olympics. So we got a number of teams competing across 12 different events, from traditional sort of stein holding events or keg toss events to a couple of things that we devised, like a beer can tower build. Each team gets 3 minutes to build a tower as tall as they can. So the teams are already emailing me like, is there a limit to how I can build? No, listen, creativity is the key here. They're all going to get their T-shirts and their team assignments on Friday night. They've got until Sunday to decorate those teams with their assigned team color. So literally their first event is we're judging how'd you do with the team shirts.
Sure.
And then it gets into it. And then the final event, of course, is the traditional Oktoberfest pumpkin smash, where you're going to be given a pumpkin. You've got to heave it. It's furthest distance, but it has to smash. If it rolls, sorry, you're out. So we've got it all. And then we close the weekend out with we give out the prizes to the home brewers. We give out the prizes to the beer Olympians. And then Brian Kirk takes us out into the night from 4 to 8 p.m. on Sunday.
Nice. Very nice.
And there's your roster.
It sounds like a great weekend. All 3 days. I'm almost sad that I'm only going to be there on Saturday. To be honest.
I hope it's great because
of course I'm probably going to be there for about 12 hours on Saturday, but
it could be a long day. It could be a long day. We got to and here now breaking news for you two as well. There is a VIP hour from 1 to 2 before the fest proper starts at 2. Mm-hmm. So in that VIP hour, the fans that have paid for their VIP ticket, they're going to come in. They're going to get to talk to us, and ask us questions about the beer and just get sort of unfettered access to our demented brains.
That works. They can have all the access they want. We're very accessible. So awesome. I can't wait to see it. I can't wait for this weekend. So I'm looking forward to it, and I'm clearly you are as well, and I'm sure there are a lot of people out there that are.
I'm looking forward to it, and my analogy is this: when I mentioned that I had the pub back in Staten Island from 2009 to 2012, we were on that parade route known as Forest Avenue.
Sure.
All year long, we waited for the St. Patrick's Day parade because we knew that in that one day we're going to gross as much as almost the rest of the year.
Sure.
Also, as soon as the day started, I could not wait for it to be over because you're just hoping. Let me get through the day. No, nobody's fighting cops. Nobody's crazy. You have to bring in 30 security extra for that day. The whole thing.
Hey, been there, done that many times in Pro River. More on that later.
Someone who used to bartend at Maloney's a few years after you left, I can tell you that my least favorite day there by far was easily St. Patrick's Day.
Matt, wait, what years were you at Maloney's?
Oh God, I want to say like 15 to 17.
Okay, yeah, yeah. So yeah, definitely many years.
Yeah,
but that's funny, man. That's still.
I know I did meet you at Maloney's once when you were still there.
And I popped in from time to time. Once I moved out of Matawan down here to Little Silver, obviously I popped in less, but we have a number of members of the Ross team, both Sam and his brother Max. Again, he works at Ashton, but he helps us out from time to time. Sure. My brother-in-law Jim lives in my old house up in Matawan, so we got a number of Ross team members in Matawan, and they're like, "Hey, can we make this thing come full circle? Can we put a Ross beer on tap at Maloney's?" And look, negotiations are happening through back channels, behind the scenes. Anything could happen. We'll see.
Yeah.
And that's one thing about this business. Like you
we can talk about that off camera too, because
one thing. Yeah, exactly.
You know how Florin works, so
we'll talk about that. But that's one thing about this industry that I love, right? Like you said, Max works up at Ashton, but helps out, right? And Matt
right here helps out,
right? I mean, look, we're one big family.
Yeah,
this industry is one big family. I don't even just mean New Jersey. The entire country, everywhere else, we're one big family.
This
industry is unlike any other industry there is anywhere.
Right. Yeah.
And I love
think
every
of it
bit of
where
it.
you see
Co-opetition is
It's all
nominal
co-opetition.
I love that.
yeah,
I was saying
co-opetition
nominally
is
who
really
should
fun.
be competitive, working together. When I was doing Ross Brewing, starting here in my garage in Little Silver, about 10 feet this direction right there.
Over there.
I had my little Sabco Brew Magic and was brewing there. And every time we had to wash kegs, you're taking it apart, pulling the spear out. And so I reached out to Carton, and I didn't know Augie at the time. I had met him on their opening weekend in 2011, but I didn't really know him. But I said, hey, listen, full disclosure, we're going to be opening a place in Red Bank, because at the time that's where we thought we were opening, Red Bank. I said, can we get some help? Maybe use the keg washer. He's like, come on, man. He said, you got to ask. He goes, come on over. Use the keg washer.
Sure.
And matter of fact, before we called that our collab Kolsch, almost was going to be called, sure, you can borrow the keg washer again. I got to some point, if I was texting him, he knew why I was texting.
Keg washer Kolsch would have been pretty.
Keg washer Kolsch.
It would have been good. I don't know if he thought it was too fine of a point, but it gets to your point, John. Like, you know what? We help each other. Somebody's got some hop. The other day, I think it was, in fact, Carton was in. They needed our shrink wrap tool. Like, you borrow things from people.
Absolutely.
It's what it's
about.
Same way.
It's what it's about. It's what it's about.
Yeah.
And we, like, I say this all the time. Like, the analogy I use for people that don't understand it, really get it, right, is that, like, if you own a pizzeria and you've owned a pizzeria for like 5 years, 10 years, whatever, on one side of the street, and then across the street, somebody comes in, they're going to open another pizzeria. No matter what, you're losing business.
Right.
No matter what, you are going to lose. But even if their pizza sucks, you're still going to lose business, right? Because they're opening across the street. So you're mad, right? If you own a brewery on one side of the street, you want somebody to open up across the street, down the block, around the corner, and down the other way. Because that's only going to make you more
100%.
money. It's going to make more business for you, because now you're a destination. You have 4 or 5 breweries within a few blocks. That's what you want to happen. So, and that's what's so amazing about this industry. And it's not even just the money, right? It's not even just the people coming in and the destination and everything else. It's about the brotherhood. It's about the sisterhood. It's about the family. It's amazing.
When we all succeed together, it's us versus the macros, really, is what it is.
You said it.
Yeah, it is.
You know what I mean?
You
So
said it.
we have to support each other, because it's all of us in the same boat against that giant destroyer. Over
Hey! A rising tide raises all boats, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. A rising tide raises all boats.
There you go.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Had to do that. Product placement.
I have the Nautical Twilight here too. That's one of the beer half about the collab.
They're all right here. Like, they're all the.
Oh yeah, they're behind you too.
They're right.
I have mine at my right hand. So
yeah. So.
I used to have them on the shelf. One of the shelves here, you see some of the plates back there.
Mm-hmm.
I think I had like our first 12 beers there, but at some point we aged out of that. I can't have them all on one. I need more shelves.
Of course. Oh yeah. I mean, look. Once we open, right, and we have more than these 6 cans here,
exactly.
Then they're not going to be there. So.
No,
not to mention
we'll have a big shelf somewhere in the brewery.
Right. Not to mention, I'll probably be doing the podcast. We'll probably be doing the podcast from the brewery. So that's besides the point.
There you go.
So, but all right, cool. I'm gonna open my 3rd beer, Matt.
I was gonna say I'm ready for beer number 3.
I'm doing it right now.
What do you got, John?
So this is from our friends over in Belgium. Okay.
Those are good friends.
I was going to say, you have my undivided attention.
They're good friends to have. Well, La Chouffe, this is their creek. This
Cherry
is
Chouffe.
Cherry Chouffe.
Sure.
Man, it's something I've been enjoying for, 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I get excited every year when it comes out. So I snagged a 4-pack at the Middletown Bottle King. Mm-hmm. And excuse me, guys, I just want to take a big.
Yeah, go for it. How is Joe? I haven't seen him.
Joe's great.
I gotta stop and see Joe. I haven't seen him in a couple months.
Without talking about anybody else, I'll say that he's a major improvement for that store. And we'll leave it at that, Johnny.
There you go.
So good.
There you go. What do you got going on, Matt?
All right,
You
it's not Unibrew, but it does have a big devil on it.
Look at that.
Ooh, look at that.
But this is a half acre, and it's called Catch Hell. It's a
Wait,
bourbon
you're
barrel
on a
imperial.
Chicago tip here. That's your second
He's
Chicago
it's
brewery
his
in a
second
row.
Chicago, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Wow.
I got a Chicago guy, so
Okay, nice.
Hey,
I got a
we-
Chicago guy. You know?
We know how it works. We're from Jersey. We
Bears.
got a guy for whatever we need. So,
Right.
but it's a bourbon barrel aged imp stout with vanilla and cinnamon. So, hopefully the cinnamon isn't overdone.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Very nice. I got to take the obligatory picture here for what's that app that we use?
Oh, that app that I have like 10,000 beers on now.
Oh.
Yes, congratulations, Matt. You have 10,000 beers.
Right.
What's weird is that
Can you-
I have half the amount of check-ins he does, unique check-ins he does, but I've been on Untapped 4 years longer than him. But that's because
Well, that tells you something about Matt's drinking habits, perhaps.
Maybe. All right, so my
Called market research.
there you go. You can say market research. There you go. So my third beer is, we talked about it before, it's my favorite English style. All right, and English barley wines are a super, super, super close second, but this is definitely my favorite English style right here. And it's one of my favorites too. North Coast Old Stock Ale. It's an old ale. So
North
Right there.
Coast.
But it's 2023, so it's not that old.
it's not that old. So cheers.
Cheers, guys.
For the season, Prost.
And
Prost.
very much
Prost,
looking
there you
forward
go.
to
Very nice.
this weekend. So
Absolutely. That's such a good
We're gonna be drinking a lot of good beer this week.
We're gonna be drinking a lot of good beer this weekend. Exactly. All right. All right. So before we'll wrap up things, and we'll talk a little bit more about Rosstoberfest and Ross Brewing and everything to wrap things up. But with these beers now that we poured, let's move on to our top three list that we're doing.
Oh,
For the
top
day.
three.
So,
Okay.
Our top three list for the week, and I'll tell you, John, and people that are longtime watchers or listeners on the audio portion of the podcast, we do a top three list. Why do we do a top three list? We do a top three list. Well, the main reason was we pay homage to the repeal of Prohibition, 1933, right? 333. So it's a top three list, and also if we did a top 10 list, it would take way too long.
yeah, we'd be here for all night. So
We'd be here all night. So.
three is fine.
3 is fine because 3, especially with Dave, he usually gets 4 or 5 or 6
Yeah, he is.
out of his top 3. He's got several honorable
There's
mentions.
like honorable mentions in there and all kinds of stuff, and you're like, dude, just get on with it.
There you go. Well, no, that's the sports podcast. You don't want to go there. Anyway, all right. So tonight's top 3 list is top 3 favorite beers from breweries located on water. Breweries located on water, and we always. Right. We also have the stipulation, not New Jersey. So we're staying away from New Jersey.
This is tough. There's a beer I liked from Ship Bottom down in LBI.
Sure.
They're a block from the water, but
well, I mean, look, they don't have to be they don't have to be right on the water. If they're a block or 2 from the water, they're on the water. It's fine.
Okay. Well, I got to get creative here. Well, who's going first?
Usually, you go first. If you'd like, one of us.
If you'd like some time, I'll go first.
Matt, please go first.
Okay, I'll go first. So I'm going to start with a simple one, and it's actually Long Trail Double Bag. Long Trail Brewery is on the Ottaquechee River, which
Wow.
don't
did
think
not
that's
know
the
that.
exact way to how to pronounce that. I'm sure I just slaughtered that, but
No, Ottaquechee sounds about right.
yeah. But I do remember, my very first trip ever up to Vermont. I do remember going to Long Trail, and I remember I was with 2 of my good buddies. We had bought a bunch of my homebrew up. We had rented a house. We started the fire. We went to Long Trail, and I just remember sitting outside on a picnic table, and you're right next to this little river, and the water's just cascading over all the rocks. You got that tinkling sound of water, and it's just beautiful. And you're right there in the middle of the Green Mountains, because you're not too far from Killington and all that. So I mean, it's a beautiful place to be, and the water was a big part of the experience of being there.
Now I want to go there. I carry Long Trail at both of my bars, both at Maloney's and at the Wild Goose.
Long Trail makes amazing beers.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
like
two
the
of my
Long Trail.
favorite fall beers. One now, one a little bit later in the fall. Long Trail, Harvest Ale. They're maple. It's a maple brown. And Matt knows I'm a huge brown ale guy. They're Harvest Ale, but they're Hibernator too. In December.
For me, it actually was interesting you mentioned that because
I love Double Bag though. Double Bag's a great beer.
It's kind of like I could have picked either one, Double Bag or Hibernator, but I went with Double Bag because it's like a 7% alt beer, like almost like an imperial alt beer, and it's a style that is it's just not seen that much.
Right.
So it's a unique beer, and it's delicious, and I love it.
I had a Long Trail Connect. I had a guy here in town, one of my neighbors in Little Silver. He was the Long Trail rep for New Jersey.
Nice.
He used to give me great stuff. Hibernator in particular, because
Hibernator's fantastic.
Sure. And he
left. You're a Bach guy, so of course.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying, man. But he went to Cape May, so that's great. I'm happy for him. And Cape May puts out some very nice stuff. But I now I lost my Long Trail Connect.
Right.
So I gotta find it and buy it like everybody else. So good pick, Matt. Okay.
Yeah. My second one is very simple, but it's from some good friends of ours. It's just the Tavern Ale, which is an extra special bitter from Strong Rope. And if you've been to Strong Rope, the Red Hook plate, location, they're right on the water where you can look out and you see the Statue of Liberty.
Yep.
And you see all the boats coming up into the mouth of the Hudson River. And it, on a nice day, it's just an awesome place to be. And, it's interesting. They use all like New York malt and New York hops. And, for certain things, I think it limits them. But like the ESB was so on point. And it was interesting because it's English style beer made with New York ingredients. And it was a nice execution.
Nice concept. Yeah.
There's I don't know if you could see, but there's the two of us and the Statue of Liberty is in the background. If you see
wow, that's pretty cool.
That's from outside.
John, you had that ready to go. You knew where Matt was.
No, I just pulled it right up. No. I just pulled it. I knew where it was.
He keeps it in his favorites, Matt.
Yeah.
He likes it.
No. You know what I do? Actually, I go right to the location. Right, I just zoom in right on the location. I knew where I took the picture, so it was right there.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And then for number one, I gotta go to Ballast Point. And if you've ever been to the Long Beach location,
that one
sat outside that in California, Long Beach, you sit outside on the little deck and like you're on the Pacific Ocean and you can see out. It's just fantastic. So for that, I got to go with a Victory at Sea variant, which is Victory at Sea is their imperial, porter with coffee and vanilla.
100%.
The Heaven Hill barrel aged Victory at Sea was one of the best ones I've had. So that's my favorite beer from a brewery on the water.
I had occasion to get out to Ballast Point. I've been to the San Diego location a couple of times, never Long Beach. This is a true story that I'll reveal. I don't think this is necessarily public knowledge, although I've mentioned it before. Our flagship beer at Ross is our Navesink IPA. It's named after the river that runs right here between Little Silver and Red Bank, and just south of the brewery in Middletown. And our Navesink IPA is not a hazy or New England IPA. It is a West Coast IPA, and it started by me homebrewing out in the garage and trying to deconstruct Ballast Point's sculpin. That's what I was trying to do there. And because of the hops involved, and there were some citrus and pine leaning hops.
Very, very grapefruity, very pine.
Exactly. Yeah. Matt, you're right. And we aged it on a ruby red grapefruit. Mm-hmm. And we actually were doing that here in the garage before Ballast Point came out with the grapefruit variant of Sculpin, which made sense for them to do. They also did, I think, pineapple, habanero, jalapeno. Yeah. They did it all.
The habanero was actually, I mean, like I like a spicy beer every now and then, but that habanero was for what it was. I mean, there's been hotter beers, right? But for habanero, for what it was actually at the time when they came out with it, was actually, pushing the capsaicin just a bit.
And I mean, for such a mass-produced beer, I have to respect the fact that they didn't dumb it down. They actually a little aggressive,
Yeah. I actually have, and I'm sorry, I apologize to your audience. I'm trying to make it very, very quick. I've got a little Ballast Point story, Matt. So I did my graduate degrees, my master's and my MBA at the University of Rochester. And so I was in the business school there, and they would have this conference every year and invite some big business leader from Rochester. And there's big companies that were headquartered in Rochester,
Genesee?
Xerox, Kodak, Bausch and Lomb. This one was Constellation Brands.
Constellation.
So the CEO comes in, Rob Sands. He looks like Mario from Super Mario Brothers. And he says, look, here's what happened. He goes, my grandfather started, I don't want to say bootlegging, but he's selling wine and spirits to the local shops. And then, my father comes in and he makes it bigger and we cover all of New York. He goes, and then me and my brother came in and now it's a Fortune 500 company. He said, and, a couple of years back, the Department of Justice comes to me and says, look, we're going to make you an offer you can't refuse. He goes, globally, InBev, who has acquired Anheuser-Busch, also wants to acquire the Modelo Group. That's Modelo and Corona. Mm-hmm. And the DOJ says, nope. In the U.S., this would be antitrust between Budweiser, Corona, Modelo. You'll have 90% of the beer. This is a monopoly. We're not going to let you do it. He goes, so they came to me at Constellation and said, since you already import and distribute Constellation and Modelo here, we want you to buy it at this very, very low price that's being underwritten by AB InBev because they need it to go through on a global scale. So in the rest of the world, AB InBev owns Modelo and Corona. But in the U.S., they're owned by Constellation. Mm-hmm. So he's telling us the story. And, it's all these MBAs and who wants to be a stock trader and who wants to, run a hedge fund. And then there's this idiot that wants to open a craft brewery. So, I put my hand up. I got a question. Looking at the numbers here, you guys have got domestic beer, you've got import beer, you've got spirits, they got Svedka vodka, you've got wines, Mondavi and Coppola. I said, but the fastest growing segment at this point, a couple of years back, 5 consecutive years of double-digit segment growth is craft beer. You guys don't have any. What's the plan? And he deflected. He goes, this is why we hire MBAs from Rochester to think of things like this. Let's talk after, right? So we don't talk after. He disappears. But 6 months later, they acquired Ballast Point,
right?
John?
Mm-hmm.
Whoop. Did he freeze?
Did he freeze? I think he froze.
Yeah.
John?
You there?
He said John, and then he stopped. He froze.
Oh no, we lost him.
We didn't lose him. He's still there. He'd have been disappeared if he lost him. So he'd have literally give him a second. He might come back. I just like talking to fill the void, right? Because obviously anybody listening to the audio podcast.
Anyone who's particularly interested, it does not have too much cinnamon, which I was very scared of.
This is the revolution.
Is the catch hell.
The catch for half acre.
Catch hell.
Mm-hmm.
This is but it's vanilla and cinnamon. I think the vanilla helps smooth the cinnamon out. Cinnamon is one of my scariest things.
Right.
Because very few people do cinnamon very, very well, and it goes not enough, just right. Oh crap, it's too much.
Right.
So
he'll pop back on. We lost him. He'll pop back on. Interestingly enough, I've been to both Revolution and Half Acre.
And I have not, but I'm drinking their beer.
Interestingly enough, I've had neither of those two beers.
Yeah, I think. They're both relatively new releases. I think right. So.
I was at Revolution the last time I was at Revolution was 2015, 15 October 2015. That was the last time I was at Revolution. Last time I was at Half Acre was May of 2019.
Yeah.
So there you go. But yeah,
should you text John and say, "Hey, just jump back on the link"?
He should know. He's used StreamYard before,
okay.
So we'll see. Let me just throw that in there. I'm just texting him right now. Jump back on.
Unless his internet complete poop.
Exactly.
And then we'll never know what his.
Well,
I'm going to guess one of his beers was a Ballast Point beer. Then.
I'm going to say one of his beers was a Ballast Point beer.
Probably
Sculpin. Now that you've opened the door to Ballast Point.
The worst case scenario would only be down two
beers. And I could do mine, and we can call the show. Right? Exactly. So now he's jumping back on. He just told me. He just texted me.
Perfect. No worries.
He should be back in a second.
I have faith.
I
This is solid.
honestly.
This isn't blowing my mind, but it's solid. There's cinnamon. There's a little vanilla.
I'm actually well. I'm gonna have to find one of each of those. More so the Revolution and the Half Acre, but I wouldn't mind finding one of those. So I'll have to search the trading lines and.
I have another Revolution that I'm saving to have with you. I think it's a maple bourbon barrel aged something.
That works.
Yeah, breakfast something. I don't know.
That works for me.
Yeah,
Works for me. Yeah. So and on another note, we're back and forth. Doug, we mentioned before.
One of these left too.
I have one of those too.
Brew Royale.
I have the Brew Royale.
I do not have the bourbon barrel aged ones, but
I have the regular one too.
Yeah.
But which we got. This is fantastic. I actually stopped and picked this up today after we had our meeting. It's there are better old ales out there. Most of them bourbon barrel aged or rye barrel aged or whatever, but
now they
they're
are
solid. Right now they are, but for an American brewed old ale, non-barrel aged, this is fantastic. So anyway, you were saying,
there he
John,
is.
You were saying, John, before your internet.
I said, "Oh, John, you're frozen." I said, "Wait, Matt, you're frozen too." I said, "Wait a minute. If you're both frozen, that means I'm frozen. I'm the frozen one. I'm the well, thanks for letting me back on. Well, now listen, that's the end of the story there. From my point of view, of course, we know the rest. They acquired them for $1 billion. They sold them 2 years ago for $50 million. That's a $950 million write-down. Very clear that Constellation did not.
But they kept.
To do it
but they kept the canned cocktails. They kept the RTDs. They kept the RTDs.
No, for sure.
It's now cut water. Anywhere you get cut water was the ballast point, right? So they just sold off the brewery, but they kept the RTDs. They kept the canned cocktails. So that's what they from what I heard, that's what they really were more interested in. They weren't 100% interested in the brewery. They needed to acquire the brewery in order to get the RTDs, in order to get the canned cocktails. RTDs ready to drink.
That was a very, very expensive.
It's a lot of money to just get one brand out there. Exactly.
You know who bought it for $50 million? You know who bought it? A brewery no bigger than Coastal Ross.
In Kings and Convicts.
Little Chicago brewery. That's going to be Matt's next beer. Another Chicago brewery. But
exactly.
All right, now John, if you were in the middle of your three, by all means, go ahead.
I did not. I was not in the middle of my.
No, we were
waiting for you.
Okay.
So
we were saying that
mine, I'll do them. So
we're going to assume that Sculpin is one of your three, then.
Not again. Not again.
No. You're here. We got you.
We got you.
You got you. You're not frozen. We can hear you.
He's moving a little slow, but
he might not hear us, but we hear him.
Oh.
That's the problem. So we can hear you. I'll text him really quick and let him know we can hear you. We can hear you. There you go. We can hear you. There he goes. Hold on. There he goes. Now he's going. That's funny. I texted him to say we can hear you, and he's out.
It's the circle of death.
It's the spinning pinwheel of death.
Oh no.
Now we can't. Not now, though.
Oh boy.
Here, jump off.
We're having some technical difficulties for those just listening at home.
Back.
Who aren't watching the show. Yeah. So
there we go. What we call it? It's not us. It's all the guests' internet. So we blame it on him.
It's the interwebs.
It's the interwebs. All right, I'm going to do my top threes. Here we go.
Okay.
First of all, I will pay homage to Matt in an honorable mention, and I'm also paying homage to Dave by doing an honorable mention. Okay. Strong Rope, Right on the Water, the Tavern Ale ESB. Here he is, right back. There you go.
All right.
Listen, guys, I changed from Edge to Chrome. Maybe that my mistake was going Edge in the first place. I don't know.
That might be. Well, Chrome is the best one for StreamYard. So
Okay, I should have
There
done
you
that
go.
from the beginning. My bad.
There you go.
I'll give you my three.
Yeah, Bill Gates.
All
asked
right,
for-
do your three. Do your three.
So there's a brewery in Boynton Beach, Florida.
Mhm.
He's less than half a block from the beach on the Atlantic Ocean.
Sure.
They had a real beachy vibe. They're called Nobo Brew.
Mm-hmm.
Good guys.
And
They've actually been on. They've actually been on this podcast.
wait, did you have Steve on?
We had Darren on actually.
Okay, all right. So I was with Steve
Mhm.
this past week and out in Denver, and we had a beer from them called Barrel Aged Second Breakfast. It is a
Mhm.
cinnamon French toast vanilla stout,
Mhm.
barrel aged. That, let me explain something to you. The 1 ounce pours they give you at GBF, that was not getting it done.
No,
We
no.
made a deal. We were able to get a couple of bottles here because this was absolutely phenomenal. I think they do a regular version as part of their core lineup, but this was the barrel aged version,
Mhm.
and that was pretty damn good. My second one on the water goes to similar to you guys a little bit. You said Strong Rope, right? So on the Gowanus River in Brooklyn is Threes Brewing.
Sure.
Not to be confused with Three Threes, who's coming this weekend to the festival, but this is Threes Brewing. And they had an English style barley wine. So maybe, John, this could be up your alley. I don't know. But called Sound of Exclamation. I want to say it was 10 or 11% malty, sweet but not cloying. Lingers. The flavor stayed in your. I just remember the flavor staying in my mouth long after I swallowed it. So, Sound of Exclamation, an English barley wine from Threes Brewing, very, very good. And my number one, and actually 1 and 2 could swap. Now that I think about it, but so Cisco Brewing's got a number of locations, but the one in Nantucket.
Sure.
Okay.
Great.
It's right on the pond, but then also it's sort of like us. Like, we're on the river and we've got the bay right here. They're right on the pond, but they've got the Atlantic Ocean, or I don't know if it's Long Island Sound, whatever it is, but right there.
It's Nantucket. It's beyond the Sound, so it's Block Island Sound. It's beyond Long Island
That's
Sound.
the
It's
Atlantic
Block
Ocean.
Island Sound and
That's
Atlantic.
the Atlantic Ocean, right? That's
Yeah.
it. But I mean, the
I
whole
go
thing
shark
is
diving
cool.
not too far from there.
And we were able to take a boat there, do the whole thing, experience it. If anyone hasn't done it and they have the opportunity to do it, I would
Go.
recommend it.
Absolutely.
So they have one. I might need your assistance on this one, John. Looking it up, it's something like Notch, like NOTCH, like Notch your average stout or something like that. But
That's that's what it's called.
what's it called, Matt?
It's not your average stout.
Okay, good. So, obviously Cisco, everybody knows
16%.
What's that?
16%.
That's why it's number one. Okay. Yeah. My memory of it is that we had a great time that night. And so,
my memory of it is I don't remember anything. That's why it's the best.
You might have it right.
That's what happens when you're drinking 32 proof beer. So,
But it was tasty. The environment was fun, being out there on the water, just the whole thing. I think it really encapsulates what you're asking with this question, Mr. John.
I appreciate it. That's awesome. Those are great. Those are three great. All of you, both of you. That's awesome. I was going to start. I'll do mine right now. I'm going to pay homage to Matt, and I'm going to pay homage to Dave. Beer Samurai is not on tonight with his honorable mentions, so I'm going to do a couple honorable mentions really quick, based on some things that Matt has said. Strong Rope, the Tavern LASB is amazing. My favorite Strong Rope is their Maple Brown. Oh. Shocker, I know. My favorite adjunct and one of my favorite styles, Maple Brown. I know, but 8.9% brown ale. It's really tasty. I'm going to jump right over from Brooklyn into Long Island City, and one of the breweries that's going to be at Rosstoberfest this weekend, Fifth Hammer. These are all honorable mentions, by the way. Fifth Hammer, their Face Block. All right, their Face Block is a combination of two barley wines that they did, one with Strong Rope and one with
Big Alice? I don't know. Guess.
No, right there. Yes. I'm sorry. I'm losing my mind here. Hold on.
Interborough?
No. It's right there. They're a block away. That's why they called it block. It's like block
I'm trying to
away.
figure who's over there.
Block away. Face. Let me just do this. I'm going to get it right before I give you the wrong information. Rockaway Brewing.
Thank you, interwebs.
Rockaway Brewing is a block away from Fifth Hammer. They did a barley one with Rockaway, which was called Block Away, and then they did a Shut Your Face, which was a barley wine with Strong Rope. So they called it Face Block. It's actually a cuvee. They combined the two barley wines.
Love it.
And it's 12% barley wine. That was an amazing barley wine from Fifth Hammer. And I'm also going to throw in, just for shits and giggles, an Italian Pilsner, only because it was the first one I thought of actually on the water. Dewey Beer down in Delaware, 5% Pizzetta Italian Pilsner, really, really spot on Italian Pilsner. It was very good for them. So here's
these are all just your Dave-inspired honorable mentions.
Exactly. So here are my top three, right? My number 3, Harpoon. Harpoon up in Boston, right on the seaport, right on the water, right in the Boston Harbor. Harpoon Brewing.
I definitely left you that one.
There you go.
I had a sneaky suspicion you were going to do Harpoon.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch from Harpoon I can put in there, right? I mean, Harpoon Ale is amazing. I love the winter warmer. It's one of my favorite winter warmers. It really is really good.
Great pick. Love
Absolutely.
That.
But my 3 for this one, my pick for this one is their Leviathan IPA.
Yeah.
Leviathan IPA. It's an 11% triple IPA. It is one of my favorite IPAs, period. And Matt's got one. He's going to pull it out right now, right?
Had I known, John, I've got a great Leviathan IPA shirt.
Yes, that's what I'm looking for. I got a Leviathan.
You got a Leviathan? Both of you. I hate both of you because I don't have a Leviathan.
When I had the Wild Goose, right, we had 72 lines.
Uh-huh.
A whopping 3 of the 72. So that's, what is that? 4% of my total lines were Harpoon lines.
Love it.
And when Leviathan was in, we would always put it on. Yeah. There it is. Oh, I got that shirt. I love that shirt, man.
All right. I'm putting this out to the nether regions and the interwebs and everything else. If somebody can find me a Leviathan shirt, 2X, please let me know. I will pay for it. I don't want a freebie. I want to pay for it.
Super quick. I have a great story about that shirt.
Go for it.
So basically, remember I told you I went to Vermont and had the beer by the river in Long Trail.
Well, Harpoon has a brewery in Vermont.
I told you we were going to a beer fest that weekend. I got that shirt at said beer fest. The guy from Harpoon walked up to me and he goes, "Listen, I got a XX Leviathan shirt." And he's like, "You're one of the only people here that can wear it. I'll give it to you for $5." And I was just like, done. I was like, "That's awesome. Like, thank you." He goes, "We got to put it on right now." And I'm like, "Still done."
Done. Yeah, right, exactly. So, all right. So Harpoon Leviathan, that's my number 3. My number 2, pull it back closer to home. Brooklyn Brewery, 2 blocks from the East River.
Close enough. Okay? Yeah.
There you go. Their Brewmasters Reserve Weisenhammer. Okay. I've had many beers from Brooklyn, as we all have. I've had many of their Brewers Reserve too. I used to go to all of their Brewers Reserve releases for several years or whatever. And their Brewers Reserve Weisenhammer was amazing. It was one of the best Weizenbachs, honestly, including a bunch that I've had from Germany. This was so spot on. Garrett really knew what, dialed that in. It was so good. And my number 1, I'm drinking it right now. Old Stock Ale. Fort Bragg.
There you go. So they're on the water?
Fort Bragg, California, where North Coast is right on the Pacific Ocean. So
beautiful.
That's my number 1 right there.
Wow. And you set that up an hour ago.
I set that up an hour ago. Exactly.
So I hate to say this, but I want to go back and put an honorable mention in now.
Go put an honorable mention. Go for it.
Okay. So this is where I have to bring the ridiculous travels of life into play. So,
Matt,
when I was in New Zealand,
than you, buddy.
When I was in Queensland in the South Island of New Zealand, there's one brewery there
Mhm.
and it's called Altitude Brewing, and they are literally they're on a little hill, but right next to Lake Wakatipu, and you have like the Southern Alps, all snow capped and beautiful, and the lake and everything. They got a couple like picnic benches outside, and like the weirdest thing about New Zealand was I was so excited to go to New Zealand, and like, oh yeah, they got all these crazy juicy hops, and I'm gonna have all this good beer,
Yep.
and they ship all those hops to the US. And like everything there is they're like American style pale ale with Cascade, and you're like, no, I want
No.
your shit, not our shit, but Altitude had a 5% pale ale with like New Zealand hops in it, and it was the only beer I found in the whole week I was in New Zealand that was the way that I thought I was going to drink New Zealand beer. And it was just lovely and very tropical fruit forward, and it was called Posturing Professional. But
Posturing
it
Professional.
but it was a 5% New Zealand pale ale, and it was exactly what I wanted it to be.
So I'm gonna also cheat and come back and give an honorable mention. It's actually connected to yours, Matt, but in a roundabout way. We've gone to London the last several years. We go every year for 3 years now in March, and we stay in Richmond outside London because the wife and kids and myself, huge fans of the Ted Lasso program. And so we go and we go. We've stayed in Ted's apartment. We did the whole thing. All right, but they know that if they're going somewhere with me, they're going to be subjected to going to some breweries as well.
Yep.
And it's just part of the cost of the trip.
Exactly.
So we went to a place called Thameside Brewery, and it's literally built right on the River Thames, similar to Ross on Compton Creek. They're right on the river. It's Thameside Brewery. But they did a beer with New Zealand hops. It's not an IPA. It's they call it a New Zealand Pale Ale. So an NZPA, if that's such a thing.
Well, that's exactly what the Posturing Professional was.
And this exactly. And this is called Your Sylvan. So
What's it
you
called?
can figure it out. It's called Your SAU.
You're Savine. So Nelson Savine, they got it.
Exactly, like Carly Simon song, but it has the Nelson Savan hops, and man, it just like exploded in your mouth with those hops. So kind of funny. I don't know. I haven't seen the map. Maybe New Zealand, England, they could be on opposite sides of the planet, but that was a great New Zealand pale ale that I had in England on the Thames.
I did go to 1 or 2 Iceland breweries that were kind of on the water, but being that it was snowing sideways when I was there, you couldn't really see the water too much. So
you actually gave me some good recommendations. We just went to Iceland in August.
Yeah.
We hit 3 or 4 breweries, and I think they were your recommendations.
Yep.
The other one we hit that I think was not on your list, but we had to do it obligatory was Brewdog.
Yeah, I actually skipped Brewdog when I was there, but
we went, and what I found very interesting, they had 2 components. They had all the core Brewdog beers that were shipped over from Scotland, and then everything else on tap was local New Zealand breweries, not Brewdog beers. They like, we can't do that here in New Jersey.
Yeah.
But they were
let me get this straight. That was so it wasn't even a brew pub. It was just a Brewdog tap room.
Yeah.
Correct.
And then they had their beers and other local Icelandic breweries on tap.
Exactly. I mean, I'd love to. I guess I'd have to buy a liquor license to be able to do this, but in New Jersey,
you know what?
I'd love to serve your beers, other of my friends.
Let me tell you something. I read a couple of the other extemporaneous, if you will, reform laws that were kind of in. Yeah, it wasn't anything that the legislature had passed this July, right? But there were a couple others that will allow if they're passed. And look, the 3 of us aren't dumb, right? It's highly unlikely these are going to pass, but they do. Right? If Murphy gets what he wants and these things pass, right? One of the things are breweries in New Jersey will be allowed to pour other breweries in New Jersey
other
beers.
New Jersey breweries, right?
Okay, which maybe you want to do that, maybe you don't. It depends. Okay, But regardless of that, obviously you got to pay for it. You can obviously brew your own beer for cheaper and put it on tap, and you're going to make more money. But if you have extra taps, why not, right? The other thing that the other thing that'll allow is that when we do a collab,
it's
we can now pour the collab.
Have it on in both places,
right?
Like,
Exactly,
right.
So there's that, and a few other things too. But that is one of the things that's in
We can hope.
We can hope.
I mean,
And another thing that I did see in the plans too was external tap rooms.
Right.
Yes. So you can actually have an external. You don't have to have a
And
group
listen,
pub. You can have
that
another
Red Bank
location.
Dream could still happen, John.
I'm hoping
Red Bank Dream could still happen.
Red Bank Dream could still happen.
I'm banking on that. No pun. I'm red banking on that. In Pennsylvania, when you get a brewing license, as part of that, you get automatically 3 other locations that can be tap rooms for you. And our friends at Ship Bottom down in LBI,
they have breweries. They have it.
They've got the Pennsylvania one, and they've got 3 other locations.
Yep.
So basically, every license gives you 4 locations. I mean, that's pretty cool.
Well, I mean,
I
like the way that
New York pretty cool.
I like the way New York handles their stuff, where you're allowed to sell New York wine, New York cider, and New York
spirits, everything. You can have New York whiskey
as long as it's produced in the state.
I believe that was also part of it.
Great way to promote local.
I believe that was also part of it too.
You're right, John. That was one of the things we asked for.
Yeah.
It was the first thing that they asked to be cut. So now that it's vetoed, kind of everything's back on the table. So let's see.
Yeah.
So
I mean, again, it's in some ways that makes the most sense to me. It's like, all right, yeah, it's keep the money in New Jersey. You don't need to buy a Captain Morgan or a Jack Daniels. Let one of the local distillers make something, and we'll have them on.
We got a great one up in Keyport called 3BR. They're doing great stuff. We know
Alexei and Max are awesome.
Yeah,
exactly.
Matt and I've been there. Exactly.
I took John there the other day.
Asbury Park Distilling. There's lots right here in Monmouth County that are doing a great job.
I'm a big fan of Colt's Neck Distilling.
Come on, Muckle Eye.
They make awesome, man. They do really good. Their rye, I like their rye.
There's an amazing amount. There's an amazing amount of incredible beer, incredible spirits, incredible ciders.
I mean, that's my go-to right now.
There it is. Oh my god! I like that you've got everything within arm's reach. You got the T-shirt.
Hey, I got all my bottles and shit here. And
not New Jersey, but that's one of my faves right there. So.
Come on, Widow Jane, great, yeah. All right, so guys, we're
double
Woodford Reserve, nice.
Double oaked though.
I don't think I have that one. Okay.
Yeah, that's the fanciness.
We just picked up one that was called Christian Brothers whiskey, and I picked it up on a whim because my son went over in Lincroft to the Christian Brothers Academy, and no relation, but man, it was tasty as hell.
Yeah.
So a lot of great stuff out there.
There is so much shit.
I know you've had my Heaven Hill barrel aged barley wine. I know you've already had that.
Yes.
That's the barley wine I brought that we cracked.
That was and
I have something else to bring.
That was the Thursday.
That's also the barley wine. Oh, I've had it several times, but that's also the barley wine that myself, Jesse Ferguson from Interboro, Dave, Beer Samurai, and a few others are
Man, that's
happy
and sorry at the same time that we drank it at Interboro that one night.
What's crazy to me, I feel like we just had it. That was 5 months ago. That was the Thursday night before we opened.
Yeah,
was great.
I brought it for the soft opening. So
yep, exactly.
I will bring something else.
Ooh, this Saturday.
And if you like high ABV, this is
I do.
This is about 30%. It's technically a beer. It's a beer.
How? Oh my god! I just have to. You know what? I'm going to show you.
It's a fortified beer.
It's what I call my barley port. It took me 5.5 years to make.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, I'll explain to you what it is when we get there on Saturday.
I understand though that
bring 1 12-ounce bottle.
He's bringing 1 12-ounce bottle of it. But there's no way any more than the 3 of us and Sam are drinking this beer.
There you go. Now listen, I'm gonna show you a picture.
Yeah, I was gonna say the opposite. I said we need 12 people to drink.
Oh no, I want my 3 ounce.
Now I want to show you this picture. Okay, one of my colleagues took this out here. So what is happening here? I'm at the Sam Adams booth, but it looks like I'm facing away from the booth. And there's a reason. I'm cracking up. They did a pouring, as they do every year, a special pouring of Utopias. This year's version was 28%. Not the 30 you're saying, Matt. This was 28%. And as a result,
it might be 32.
As a result, they would only do 1 ounce pours.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did is, and the staff were trained. They saw your face and you got one.
Yeah.
They're not going to give you another one. So what I did is I hid myself flat to their booth, and I just stuck my hand in like this. Like you can't see. Like it's just here's my hand.
Yeah.
And I just kept replenishing the glass. And I had like 8 of those 28%, which is why I'm cracking up there, because I'm feeling good.
All right. Yeah. So now you got to do it right, though. You got to do it right. That's awesome. But
John, you've had the barley port, though.
I've had the barley port, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I said I want my 3 ounces.
3 ounces is too much.
Yeah, no, I know.
At 32%, probably.
Yeah. I know, yeah, probably.
So it was, John, it was 20 pounds of grain and 4 pounds of sugar. That I literally cooked down to make caramel for a 3-gallon batch.
For 3 gallons, yeah.
Sherry floor yeast to ferment it. After it went through primary, I added 40 ounces of Irish whiskey and 3 ounces of lactic acid and let it sit next to my heater for 2 years and develop like a little floor.
Exactly.
And then I aged it on Hungarian oak for 1.5 years, and then I added vanilla beans and maple syrup.
There you go.
I love
which is why I want my. All right. Maybe I'll go 1.5 ounces. How about that? I'll split the 3 ounces in half.
All right, we got 6 people. We each get 2 ounces. It's good.
There you go. Fair.
There you go.
Yeah,
I was going to say, John,
that's a good number.
In order to get enough Utopias at a beer fest, what you got to do is you got to start up a conversation with Jim Cook, right? And you got to get into a conversation with Jim for a good 15, 20 minutes, and you get
as much as you want.
As much as you want. You got to start up a conversation.
Oh man, Johnny. Well, now that Sam and Dogfish merged, they send one. So we got Sam this year. Meaning we got Sam Coligione. So we didn't get Jim Cook, unfortunately. Otherwise, we would have been chewing on the yeast packets with him.
Right, exactly. Well, I got to tell you this, that picture, right? Jim and I were hanging out for probably about 15, 20 minutes. We're having some Utopias. We're talking, right? I left there probably about 20 minutes after I left Jim. And this is a true story. I'm not bullshitting you at all. About 20 minutes after I left Jim, I went over and I was hanging out with Sam for probably 20, 25 minutes, having a couple of beers with him.
Oh my
About
God.
an hour after that, the two of them were together, and that's when they decided to get in bed together. So I blame myself.
Johnny,
for the
you
two
did
of them
it.
merging. I did it.
That is.
Did you ever see the thing on New Jersey Craft Beer when I photoshopped Sam Calgione's head into the Sam Adams guy?
No.
Oh, dude, I did. It was brilliant. I was like, I just posted that and I said with no comment, and everyone was like, "That's hilarious."
By the way, just want to give a disclaimer. It's totally a true story that I was with Jim Cook for a while, and then I was with Sam for a while. I wasn't the reason they got into bed together.
We don't know that.
Well,
we don't know that.
We don't know that. There you go. So, well, that's true. I can't confirm nor deny that I was the precipice. But in any event, it was that night though. That is absolutely true. It was that night that they actually.
And that's verifiable.
That's verifiable. So, anyway, all right. So, John, anything else you want to tell us about Rosstoberfest this weekend?
I think you guys got it. It's the Brew Fest. It's the beers. It's the music. It's the food. We've got Kevin Smith.
Damn good time.
Rossbrewing.com.
It'll be fun.
Kevin
Smith on Friday night. Beer Olympics on Sunday.
Matt Potenski on Saturday.
Me and Matt on Saturday.
So we know Saturday's the day then. That's the day you want to do it.
Yeah. There you go. Anything else you want to talk about Ross? Even further from Rosstoberfest, the other events you have coming up the rest of the year, even into the next year, some of the beers that are coming out, maybe the holiday beers or anything like that.
We've got our 3rd anniversary stout coming out. Well, basically, you guys might know the story on this already. Well, Matt, I know specifically knows the story. We brewed our beer, Brux Royale. I mentioned it back at the top of the show. It was a beer that Sam from Dogfish had. Okay, how does this guy have everything at his fingertips?
Hold on. That I have in my cellar. I can bring up the bottle too. I have another bottle.
Okay, it's crazy that he can do that. So that's our base beer there, and itself is an award-winning beer. 12% Belgian chocolate stout, Abbey Ale yeast, rather than a normal London Ale yeast for the stout. We use a Belgian Abbey Ale yeast, some cacao, some vanilla, some molasses, and some lactose, along with Belgian dark chocolates. And that's your base. That's the base for our anniversary. Now, to that, we then add each year something a little bit different. So this most recent year, number 2, Matt gave us a suggestion to go sort of like a German Black Forest cake. So we went with some coconut and some chocolate, and it was
cherry.
Some cherry, and it was very, very good. Yeah. So we've got the 3rd anniversary ale coming out this December. It's in the barrels right now. I don't know, am I authorized to speak to adjuncts yet? Here's what I can tell you.
Fairly certain you own the brewery, so you can do what you want, but
God, okay, that's true. But there are some agreements that have been made. Here's what I can tell you. Every anniversary ale that we release is a living beer in that every previous anniversary iteration is there. So we brew the beer year 1. Before we add the adjuncts, we take a piece of that. We add that to year 2.
Sure.
Now, year 2. Before we add the adjuncts, we take a piece of that. That's been added to year 3. So God willing, if there's a year 20, you're tasting part of that year 1 in there, even if it's only 1 part per million at that point. It's sort of a Solera method, going forward.
Oh yeah, of course.
So the year 3 has elements of year 1 and year 2, and we've come up with a pretty. I don't want to blow up my own marketing plan, so we've come up with a pretty, I think, exciting adjunct schedule to go with this stout. It's probably going to come in right between 15.5% to 16%. And we're pretty excited about it. So that'll be coming out in December.
Can you see what kind of barrels it's in?
I can. It's actually I mentioned them a little while ago. The year 1 was in Maker's Mark bourbon. The year 2 was Evan Williams bourbon. Year 3 we went something a little closer to home. We went down, we tasted all of the various spirits offered by our friends at Asbury Park Distilling.
Nice.
And we selected 2 barrels from them that had just been, when I say freshly dumped, we got them the next day. Yeah. So while the first 2 years we used maybe some bigger, certainly more well-known bourbon brands, there's inevitably some time that's elapsing between when we get them. Here, we got them the day after they were dumped. So
we're going to get a lot of character out of them.
That's what we're thinking about.
And not only did you keep it close to home, New Jersey, but you kept it close to home, Monmouth County.
Oh, without a doubt.
If I could only make one suggestion, then you're going to have so much character from the barrels. You do need to do something with some impact in the adjuncts. Stand up to it. So I'm not concerned. I'm just saying.
No, listen, absolutely, that's recognized. Otherwise, this thing's going to taste like a glass of whiskey. Yeah. So we've got some pretty exciting adjuncts. I can't reveal it just yet. I will say we're not duplicating what we did in year 1. We did the chocolate and the figs. Year 2, the chocolate and the cherries and the coconut. We've got
year 1. We did a little bit of everything.
Yeah, but this one we're going in a different direction.
And almonds.
That's good.
And
yeah, that's right. Not just the figs.
And coffee and chocolate.
Oh no, it wasn't the almonds, but it was close. It was the pralines. Yeah.
Sorry,
pralines.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
I've got.
Well, I know because I helped put all this stuff in the tank. So
up
like
Cypress,
7 adjuncts that we used.
So. We did a lot there. I've got a couple of bottles here aging in the cellar. God willing that we get to a year 10, man, we're just going to do a vertical.
Well, that's my plan for a lot of things. It's not just your beer. I have others too, but I do have 1 bottle of Brooks Royale left.
All right, great.
And last year's too, and
so
I'm doing them. Like I'm waiting to at least 5, if not 10, and then do that. Right, but I do that with a lot too. Like,
by the way, that's effectively our year 0. Right, sure. Because we did it before we started celebrating the anniversaries, and even the anniversaries, we're a year off. This should be year 4, but we chalked up a year to COVID and said just throw it out the door.
There you go.
I still want to do a 0 anniversary beer.
We're doing a 0 anniversary beer.
Oh my God!
When we open,
When we open, we'll have a 0
I
anniversary.
love it. I love it. I love it. Great idea.
So,
Uh,
but awesome. All right.
Chuck Norris
Um,
can divide by 0. Just remember that.
Exactly. You can't.
He's the only one who can.
Yeah.
He doesn't push up. He pushes the earth down.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. So anything else? So besides the third anniversary coming up, any other events coming up the rest of the year? Going to the holidays?
Listen, we got a lot of parties every weekend in August. We're at all the usual festivals. We're doing witchcraft. Maybe we'll see you guys there again. I know last year we were right next to each other.
Sure.
Our beers are available currently as of now at 300 locations throughout New Jersey. That's both on premise and off premise, and the brewery. Right now, until somebody else does different, we are the only waterfront brewery in New Jersey. We've got, I think, 8 fire pits, so we're going to be keeping that outdoors going into the fall. And other than that, just look for our new releases. At Ross Brewing, we just crossed this weekend.
Yeah.
We just crossed, thanks to the surge we got at GABF, we just crossed 30,000 followers.
Very
so
nice.
If you're on Instagram, it's at Ross Brewing, and that's the best way to find out about the newest beers and events.
And if you guys have not been to Ross Brewing, this is the weekend to go.
Yeah.
It's going to be a really good time with a lot of good beer.
If you're
Get your butts down there and check them out.
absolutely, if you're picking the first weekend to go down there and check them out. And if you're able to get down there on Saturday, not only will you be able to have great beer, you'll be able to meet John, you'll be able to hang out with all of that, but you'll be able to see me and Matt as well.
Come on, we got John, and Matt. What more can anyone ask?
Exactly. So, all right, cool, awesome.
John, before you go, I do just want to say a quick word.
Word.
The team at Ross Brewing,
really,
really,
tell us about the team. Tell us.
Really coalesced in the last 8 to 12 months. We got a great brewer, Sam Kayada. He's brewed all over. He got started. He got started with our friend Dave Hoffman up at Climax. Then he was at Adirondack, and he was at Captain Lawrence, a great brewer.
Sure.
And he did 5 years over at Carton, our neighbor.
He was at Carton for a while, yeah.
He actually got promoted up to the level of head brewer right before he left, but then he left and he opened his own place in Miami called Sun Lab Brewing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why when he came back home to Jersey, a Monmouth County kid come home, a Middletown kid came home, we wanted him because I know he can think like an owner. He did own his own brewery, and he owned it for those tough 2 years through COVID. So Sam's great. We've got a great tasting room team. Donna is my number 2. Honestly, we all know she really runs the brewery. I'm just like a figurehead. And then we've got Cody. We got him from Asbury Park. He was bar manager at a number of great spots in Asbury where we were serving, and we poached him to come over to us and run our tasting room. And between the sales team, the tasting room team, and of course my employee number 1, Matt, I know you know him well, which is my father-in-law, Mike Fieser. We just had a great time. I mean, the dude's 70 years old.
Hello, diver.
He's an avid diver. He runs a couple of miles every morning. He's 70 years old. Looks way better than I look, or than I ever look.
I won't look that good at 70. I know.
I will never. I'll never look good. And you know what? We've corrupted it. We've got him drinking beer every day now.
Yeah.
But we just had a great time out in Denver, me and him and Todd and Sue.
Well,
and so,
I'll definitely raise a glass to Mike.
Do it, man. He's the man. And so, listen, John, that's
Hopefully
it.
I see him Saturday.
He'll be there Saturday. And you know what? He might be in his cups, and that'll be fine. That'll be fine. We don't need him to do any work on Saturday.
As long as one of them has our collab in it, that's all I ask.
Awesome. All right, John and Matt, thank you so much. Go ahead, John.
You got it. John, don't go anywhere. We're going to talk after we sign off. We'll wrap the show up for today.
Saturday, though.
Absolutely. Looking forward to this. I was going to say that. So
and
cheers for that.
Excited to do the collab with you guys. So.
Very excited. We were very happy about that. And we couldn't be looking more forward to Saturday.
Awesome.
But on that note, we'll wrap the show for today. Again, John, don't go anywhere. Want to thank everybody for watching. And for those of you just listening to the audio podcast, thanks for listening. Don't forget to visit our website, www.lagerroom.com. That's LAGERROOM.com. And
guys,
please remember,
Lager Room Talk. It's okay.
Exactly. And remember, please remember, like us and follow us on all of our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course, our YouTube channel. All of them are at The Lager Room. Remember, we go live with the video podcast on both Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, which is now X, however you want to say it, right? And Twitch. every Tuesday night. Every Tuesday night around 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. And for those of you who just want to listen to the Eastern time, that's it. And for those of you who just want to listen to the audio podcast, you can do so on our brand new audio podcast host, which is Spreaker, as well as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Castbox, Deezer, Podcast Addict, pretty much Podchaser, anywhere you can get a podcast, you can find the Log Room Guys podcast. So, and if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to one or more of those feeds and you will never miss a show. Again, thanks for following along with us. Have a great rest of your week.
Yeah.
Have a wonderful weekend. Drink a lot of beer, but drink responsibly, and we will talk to you soon, folks.
I say, and I'd like to sign off by saying I'm sorry. I'm way more sober than Dave, but that's the way that goes.
Usually that's the case. So,
sorry, guys. I tried.
Anyway. All right. Cheers, folks. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
Prost.
Prost.
Prost.